And suddenly everybody's high on Georgia. Again, stop me if you've heard this story before. Let's bring in Brandon Marcello to talk more about it. Brandon, thank you as always. Great to have you on. And Georgia was already the favorite, or going to be the favorite, to win the East in the SEC, but now things have changed, have they not?
Yeah, I mean, listen, to me, this is national championship or bust for Georgia. That should be the expectation for the fans. I'm sure it pretty much always is every year, as we've seen over the last, especially the last 4 or 5 years. But listen, this is a program that has built its way up to a year like this through recruiting. Their average recruiting ranking over the last five recruiting classes is number 2 nationally. If that doesn't win you a national championship or at least get you back into the national title game after the disaster that was 4 years ago for Georgia, I don't know what will. And then you complement that with 2 5-star players yesterday joining the team who are going to be starters in holes that they needed to fill. And also, last year you had a 5-star quarterback in the guy who unseated him at USC, and JT Daniels. And JT Daniels is a guy who was playing like a 4-star type quarterback at USC, but we started to see those 5-star glimmers of hope again in the second half of last season when Georgia finally decided to start him. So definitely, this is a program that has built the type of depth and have those type of stars at the very, very, very important positions that they should contend and win a national title here in the next couple of years. And I think this is their best window in 2021.
Brandon, they lost George Pickens, another 5-star. He may be back toward the end of the season, but he won't be there for the first game against Clemson. Most people, including your publication, believe that the Georgia-Clemson game is the best game of the entire season. I don't want to under or oversell the importance of that game, but what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, if Georgia ends up winning that game, it shows to me that they will be a team that will be in the playoff at the end of the year if they somehow manage to get through the SEC with one loss or less. If they lose to Clemson, they're still not out of it, but I'm pretty sure that they would have to win out to still be in that college football playoff conversation as it stands now. So that's why it's so important to me. It's an early playoff kind of, not necessarily a play-in game, but an early playoff preview. Don't think of it as a play-in game. Think of it as a playoff preview. We may very well see these two teams in the playoff, and based off the way Georgia and Clemson perform in this game, we'll get a better judge of where they'll be and should be at the end of the season. Every team should improve as they go through a year, and these two teams, how they match up, if it's rusty and we're going back and forth, maybe then we should start scratching our chins and going, okay, maybe Clemson had a little bit too much to replace there, especially on offense. Maybe they can't just lean on that defense, whereas with Georgia, maybe all this star power that they have will be for naught. But to me, these are two programs that should definitely be in the playoff conversation next season, and Georgia most certainly should be, considering all the depth they have accumulated on the recruiting trail for the last 4 to 5 years.
As you look at Georgia's schedule, after Clemson, yeah, they have Florida, they go to Auburn, and everyone else in the East, and therefore, but do you think it looks fairly palatable?
Yeah, I think so. I think they should run away with the East next season. I think that they will beat everybody in the East, and they should by double digits. That's where I sit with this schedule. And you look at it, I mean, goodness gracious, maybe their toughest game, but outside of Florida in the East, is at Tennessee. To me, that might be their toughest game in the SEC. So they should run away from everybody on their regular season schedule other than Clemson. They should run away with the SEC East. They should get in the SEC championship game. And in doing so, should have a lot of style points because, as I said, everybody on that schedule, they should beat by double digits. They have that kind of talent.
And my hearing is still relatively good, Brandon, but I want to make sure, because they teach you this in journalism, introduction to journalism, beat every team by double digits after Clemson, and that includes Florida, correct?
Everybody. Everybody. They have the talent. Doesn't mean they're going to do it, Paul, They have the
No,
talent.
you're
There's
just
no
predicting.
excuses anymore. And there's no excuses anymore. And I'm not predicting it. I'm saying that they have the talent, and it's up to those coaches in Athens to put it all together and have them beat the opponent soundly, because they will be better than every team other than Clemson on that schedule by far. And they should beat everybody by double digits. They should cruise into the
Okay.
SEC East and then go to the SEC Championship.
Off the record, I heard you the first time. I just wanted to make sure everybody else did. Brandon Marcello with us here talking about the SEC. If I could get off of Georgia for a second, then we'll come back to them. But Dan Mullen got an extension yesterday. I'm not saying it surprised anyone, but the season ended terribly, as we have discussed in the past. What do you read into that extension?
Well, they believe that he's going to be able to have them contend in the SEC every single year and get to a national championship game. They believe he's the answer. They believe he's the one that's going to not necessarily turn everything around there, but get them past that one last step. The issue is I think last year, I said this on your show last preseason, last year was the window for them to overtake Georgia for a time being. And they did that on the field, but they had to take advantage of that in recruiting. I don't see that they have necessarily done that on the recruiting trail for this past signing class and going into 2022 and 2023. Recruiting is the lifeblood of every program. And to be competitive in the SEC, you have to have top 5 recruiting classes every year. Otherwise, you have no shot at beating Alabama. And to me, there's only 2 other programs in the SEC that are doing that consistently. That's Texas A&M, that's Georgia, and also add LSU in there. But to me, the 2 programs on the rise that are kind of overtaking Florida for that spot are LSU, Texas A&M, and of course Georgia.
And I'm puzzled by this, and I'm wondering where you land. Why now that he's been there long enough? Why is Dan Mullen not recruiting at that level? Others have done that at the University of Georgia, the University of Florida, including Urban Meyer. Even Muschamp had some good recruits.
You're absolutely right. And I think the thing with Dan Mullen, even when you go back to his time at Mississippi State, he didn't necessarily bring in stellar recruiting classes. He isn't known as a stellar recruiter. He's known as a fantastic developer of talent, and especially getting coaches on board with him to help develop talent on the defensive side of the ball as he develops the guys on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he has a great eye for talent, but it doesn't necessarily translate in him getting 4- and 5-star guys every single year on the recruiting trail. Did it at Mississippi State, too. We know Dak Prescott. He was a 3-star guy, ended up playing like a 5-star guy for them. But at Florida, you should be able to get the 4- and 5-star guys with relative ease because of your name. They're not quite getting up to that level where I want to see them consistently. That's a program that should be in the top 5 almost every year in recruiting, and they're kind of on the fringe of that. I want to see that improve. But the good thing that Dan Mullen is doing is that he's supplementing that and helping boost that in the transfer portal. They have been getting arguably the best players out of the transfer portal these last 3 years. I think that they've done a great job with that, and that helped supplement their talent even last year and get them into a level where they could beat Georgia. I don't know if necessarily in this new age we're going into, obviously we're leaning a lot on transfer portal guys, but I don't know if you can lean on that every year and count on you getting 2 or 3 instant impact 4- or 5-star type players in the transfer portal to carry your program. You're not going to have consistency doing that. You got to get freshmen in and develop them and make them into stars as they go along. Dan Mullen can do that with 3- and 4-star guys, but to get to that next level, you got to have 4- and 5-star guys every single year, and that would put you in the top 5 in recruiting every season.
Speaking of being in the top 5 recruiting, Kirby Smart is always there, and we already know what the results have been, but what makes him so unique as a recruiter?
Well, I think that what helps him is he's got a tremendous staff at Georgia, and what he's been able to do in recruiting. Recruiting's not necessarily been the front thing for them. Their number one thing on the assistant coaches they get, but they do such a great job of selling the Georgia brand. It's almost like, I know Georgia fans don't want to hear this, but it's almost like it's the Alabama of the East. It's the program everybody that wants to go to outside of Alabama in the SEC. Everybody kind of has eyes on them. They've done a great job with receivers. They've had some great quarterbacks. They've had some great edge rushers. And of course, they've had fantastic running backs every single year. They've got that proven track record of not only being able to compete for championships, but also develop talent into the NFL type players. And it didn't start with Kirby Smart. This was going back in Mark Richt's time there. But the issue, going back to projections for this upcoming season and beyond, is that Kirby Smart more or less has done just a little bit better on the field than Mark Richt did. And like it or not, that's just the record. Go look at it. Go compare the two right now. But Kirby Smart is recruiting a little bit better than Mark Richt. So don't you think he should be doing a little bit better than Mark Richt did in his tenure? I think so. And that's why I think that they should definitely be a contender for the national championship this season. Whether they do that, I don't know if I believe it, but they need to.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.